Also at Nation of Change, there's an article by a guy there named Paul Buchheit, and it's entitled "More Inequality Shock," about the this gap between the ultra wealthy and the rest of us. And he said, he writes, inequality is a cancer on society. I don't know that I would necessarily agree with that unless it were a terminal situation, to follow up on the cancer analogy. I think what inequality is a flashpoint. And I think it's going to be the flashpoint that finally causes people in this country to say, you know, we've had enough of this. It's happening all over the globe. All these so-called orange and green and velvet and revolution and this spring and that spring and so on and so forth. What that's about, obviously, is about inequality. It can be political inequality, gender inequality, social inequality, financial inequality. But it's mostly about inequality of opportunity. People in countries from Russia to through the Middle East, in the Western European countries to the Western Hemisphere, you know, we see what's going on. We see how the oligarchs and the capitalist pigs are trying to control everything. You know, in the days when the capitalist swine were willing to equate productivity, to put money in their bank accounts, with what they paid us workers, the workers were kind of inclined to say, okay, you know, I'm making a good living. I'm going to send my kids to college. I've got enough to take care of my aging mom and dad when the time comes. But the pigs got too greedy. It's just like an Animal Farm. It's the same thing. Orwell again. You know, Orwell again. He nails it. So the pigs that are just insistent that everything is theirs, that's what's going to drive, it's, in my opinion. I think Marx was right about this. That's what's going to drive, finally, an evolution where people who are in the so-called governed class, whether it's a dictatorship or a fake democracy like we have here, a democratic republic, or the constitutional monarchy, whatever it is, that people are finally going to say, you've gone too far, and now I'm going to take your power away from you. And so when this writer says inequality is a cancer on society, I equate cancer with death. I realize some people, my brother was a cancer survivor, which means he had colon cancer and died after 6 years. But because he survived through a 5-year period, he was called a cancer survivor. And he and I used to talk about that when he was in his 5th year. He said, Mike, I'm a cancer survivor. And a year later, he was dead. So much for cancer. When I see the word cancer, whether it's mine, Kathy's mother's, my family members, whoever gets cancer, to me, sorry, I see it as a death sentence. Period. End of story. So I don't see inequality as that way. I see inequality as being a trigger, a flashpoint, a fire, an explosion. But as Paul Buchheit points out, it keeps growing, inequality. In that sense, yeah, okay, it's metastasizing all over the planet. He writes, but humanity seems helpless against it. It's as if it's an alien force that no one understands, inequality. Even as the life is being gradually drained from its victims. This is what cancer does, and it's also what inequality does. So I tend to kind of agree with his metaphor here, but I think inequality is also going to be the trigger that finally causes most of us to say, you know what? We've had enough. We've had enough of watching you murder the planet. We've had enough in watching you murder the idea of equality of opportunity and individual freedom and collective caretaking. You know, we're not, we may be individuals, but we're all in this together. You know, I don't know. Why is that so hard to grasp? We all live on the same place. We all are born, we live our lives, and we die. And we go back to the muck and the slime and the filth that we came from. And the process for our DNA keeps repeating over and over. But we're all in this together. And I don't understand why the right-wingers don't get that. We'll be right back.